All right, another episode of Retro Rasslin Re-Call. I'm Gene Jackson along with broadcast Bob Anderson. And Bob, today we are focusing on that man right there in the nifty vest, Hacksaw Butch Reed.
Definitely one of my favorites, and a guy, unfortunately, most people just remember for his WWF run as the Natural. He was definitely a much different beast at this point in his career, not the lazy guy that the WWF run showed. Definitely only had a match or two worth talking about there, but man, definitely a much different guy back in these days. Probably should have been the first black NWA champion, uh, but we'll let people make their own opinion.
Yeah, what I wanted to do with this one, we're going to take a look at several of Butch Reed's matches from this era. And then I do have a couple of really good championship matches he had with Ric Flair during this time frame. And in a future episode, I want me and you to sit down and call at least one of those and, and kind of, like I say, see the difference in. Like, I remember, and I know that Butch Reed in the Doom era was way better than natural Butch Reed of 87 WWF. But even then, if you look at the Clash of the Champions one-on-one Doom Butch Reed versus Ric Flair match compared to what we'll see in 84, 85, it's two different people almost.
Oh, absolutely agreed. I mean, Doom Butch definitely cared more than Natural Butch, but he was a lot older at that point too. But I mean, during the
Yes.
Doom run, you could tell he cared a lot more than he did. But I mean, as you and I have talked about off air, I mean, in the WWF run, I mean, you had Hogan doing 6 moves and making $1 million. So Butch may just not have been putting in the effort. We talked about potentially his body breaking down at that point. And that schedule in WWF was just an absolute killer. But this Butch Reed here, I mean, just so athletic, so powerful, doing stuff a guy that size normally wouldn't have been doing. And he was just so over. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, he was effective as a heel. He was effective as a baby face. He wasn't able to be the second coming of the junkyard dog that Bill Watts wanted him to be, or every other black wrestler of the day that he tried. I mean, Butch came closer than most, than
Yeah.
Snowman or Brickhouse Brown, or God forbid, George Wells, but or Master G, if you will. But you know, I at one point, watching The Natural and even watching, him as a part of Doom, never really could have imagined a babyface Butch Reed. But at the times he played a babyface, he was over with the crowd, and his ring work, it played to it. So kudos to him, which
Absolutely.
I assume he is here.
Yeah, I would say so. And no, absolutely. I mean, for the people that have never seen it, Butch was just a completely different animal in this time period. I mean, and like I said, hopefully we'll see it in these matches, but he was just, I mean, in WWF, I mean, let's face facts, he was just a big, stiff power guy. I mean, during this time period, he was doing, like I said, stuff that a guy that size shouldn't be doing. But no, he was never going to be the dog in this, in Louisiana, in the Mid-South area. JYD was lightning in a bottle, and no one was ever going to be that.
Right.
Uh, I mean, for people that never saw that, you would just not ever understand how over JYD was in Louisiana. I mean, we're talking Hogan in the Silver Dome at WrestleMania 3 over or more. Like, those people would have
Yeah, and
killed
that's
you.
and that's somebody else we may have to watch in this context as well, because if you're an 80s fan, if you saw early 80s JYD and WWF, you kind of get it. If you saw 87 and beyond JYD, even then you probably can't understand what a
No.
huge babyface he was in the Mid-South, and the work, the in-ring work and the whole bit. But
I mean, like, those people were ready to murder heels for going after the dog. Like, literally kill them in the parking lot. And, like,
yeah,
it's a level of heat that's just unfathomable to people today.
go
It's a
back and
level of
look
heat
at
that
the
doesn't
angle.
exist today.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you go back and look at the angle where Michael Hayes, you can't see me holding up the finger air quotes right now, blinded JYD right about the time that his daughter was being born. And they played it up on TV. JYD, he just had his first child was born, and he wasn't able to see his child. He may never see his child due to the actions of Michael Hayes. You couldn't paid me enough money to be Michael Hayes in that day and time, having just blinded the junkyard dog. People could relate to, oh my God, what if I couldn't see my first child be born?
Right.
That's the kind of heat you were just describing, of like, we're going to kill this guy type heat, not just,
Yeah.
ooh, boo, you're a bad guy.
Right. Yeah. No, Hayes was probably deathly afraid to leave his home or appear anywhere in public in Louisiana until the dog came back and got his revenge. I mean, it's that
Yeah.
bad.
Till
But
the miracle of his sight came back, and you know, apparently he found Benny Hinn or somebody at the time. They laid hands upon him, and he was healed. Well,
uh,
then again, Bruce Pritchard was around in those days, so
no,
maybe
he may
Brother
have.
Love performed his first miracle.
We should probably point out the guy Butch is wrestling in this match is Jim Neidhart. You're probably just not used to seeing him with a full beard.
Or not wearing pink tights,
Yeah.
the bubblegum pink he wore. But that is Jim Neidhart. For context, this is fresh off of a Jim Neidhart Butch Reed tag team that had been running roughshod in Mid-South and had feuded with, what was it, Magnum TA and Mr. Wrestling 2, I believe that was the tag team.
I believe that is correct.
And
Mr. Wrestling 2 and his
these,
running knee lift.
yes, the dreaded running knee lift of doom that would knock your head off.
Oh, I see Neidhart.
That was feasible
Excuse
back
me,
then.
is busted open.
He is draining down into his big red beard. Like you said, it's so weird not to see just the little goatee. He's actually got a full broadcast Bob beard going on there.
Neidhart, probably my least favorite wrestler that I've ever met. He was unpleasant
that's
person.
that's typically the story. I dare you to go online and find a story where somebody shares about what a great time they had meeting Jim the Animal Neidhart. I'm sure there's a couple out there. There always are. I mean, because I'm the guy with the odd story that had the good meeting with Vader, and you're hard pressed to find very many of them. I promise.
True enough. All right.
Another red bearded person. Something to that. These assholes with the red beards are just
Wait a
mean to
minute.
people. Oh well, I mean, present company excluded, of course.
You're going to get an earful when we're off the air.
Butch Reed just putting the boots to him here.
We may not have picked the best match for showing off Reed's athleticism, since this is a big feud match, and he has no need to be. This is all punches.
Yeah, well, he's wrestling Jim Neidhart.
That's true. You're not going to get a big technical classic out of him.
Yeah, he wasn't a miracle worker. He didn't drag a 5-star match out of old Jimbo Neidhart, but he did the best he could. I don't remember what all matches we have in this lineup. This may not showcase just how great of a worker Butch is. We may have to arrange a whole other set of matches. I know we had that Butch and Buddy Landell against the Rock and Roll Express match in the Buddy Landell compilation. That was a really good match. And, of course, that was a great angle, too, the whole tag team of them.
You do have the Butch Flair matches lined up where we can, and I know everyone thinks Flair can work a broomstick. I don't have that high of an opinion of him, but Butch certainly holds his own against Rick.
Yeah. Well, as long as that broomstick can shoot him in the corner where he can flip over, run up the ropes, and that broomstick can then body slam him off the top rope. Anyway.
Yeah. As long as that broomstick has seen every other Flair match, he'll be fine.
We're going to earn a reputation for being Flair haters. We buried him in the Buddy Landell ones, and then now here we are.
Oh, yeah, we sure did.
In the Butch Reed one, we're speaking ill of the soon-to-be. Never mind.
Yeah. Are you not working on a can of Woo energy drink right now, Gene?
I'm not. I need to get after that, I guess. Get more done if I did.
Maybe.
And folks, if you want to keep up with the latest goings on with Nature Boy Ric Flair, he can be seen on AEW now every single week. So check that out. Whoa, look at that. Samoan drop. If you're Samoan, it's what was that? The Tatanka called it the
Oh, yeah.
end of the trail. I think is what he called it. Bobby Heenan called it the Papoose to go, but I don't think that was the official name.
Oh, I miss
Oh,
Bobby Heenan.
I do too. I've been watching some old primetime wrestlings lately, just for the Bobby and Gorilla interactions. Quite honestly, I mean, who don't enjoy a good SD Jones Steve Lombardi match thrown in there, of course, or Conquistadors against the Young Stallions, but
That's the main event anywhere on the planet.
according to Gorilla, it is. SRO signs went out early here tonight, Brain.
They'll be hanging from the rafters.
I don't think you can say that during a Butch Reed match, but anyway. We've got a
Some kind of foreign
maybe
object.
Neidhart's the babyface here because Butch pulled the gimmick and then dropped it, and now Neidhart has it, and he got bloodied. So I think Neidhart might be the babyface here. I believe, if I
That's
remember this
unfortunate.
correctly.
He'll always be the heel to me.
All right, Brett, get ready. Carry this guy for the next 10 years.
Right?
Baby!
All right, well, that wasn't the best first match to show off Butch, but it was there.
Well, we got
It
to
was
start
fine.
slow and work our way up. Well, he stuck his foreign object back in his britches there.
It was a good blade
Butch, either
job.
go to
That's
the
all I'll
dressing
give him.
room or yeah, he did. He did do a good job there. Well, I wish they had me one of them satin jackets like that guy had on.
Right? Someone needs to bring the satin jacket back in style.
I desperately wanted Memphis Monroe to wear a satin jacket to the ring, but I couldn't find one in my size. Can't tell me fat people didn't wear satin jackets back in the day. I guess they're all hoarding them.
Right?
Check out that suit on the ring announcer too. I mean, it's not Boyd Pierce level gaudy, but it's.
Someone
Well, I'm
needs to
sorry
bring
we couldn't hear that promo there from him. I'm sure it was stellar.
satin jackets, Zubaz, and belt packs need to come back in.
Damn right.
Like, I just want a whole country of people dressed like the Sandman wearing satin jackets.
I mean, I could see Whitey Jenkins walking around every day of his life wearing Zubaz and a satin jacket
Probably.
with a Copenhagen advertisement on the back or something. Butch, go on to the dressing room, dude. Let's not milk this anymore.
And if you have to dress up, you should be dressed like Bandit from Smokey and the Bandit, like that.
He needs a hat like that for sure. All right, producer Smokey, why couldn't you have cut this like 6 minutes ago, man? Whoever uploaded this needs their ass kicked. What a piece of shit.
We got to watch this cheap heat. So.
All right. Well, hope that don't mean there's another match here to see the payoff to that.
Well, folks, while we're waiting, make sure to tune into OWF Worldwide every week.
There you go. Now you're getting it.
Aha.
OWF Worldwide Wrestling every Thursday at noon.
Oh,
there
look, it's JR.
By God.
Oh, it's Kamala.
Oh, you know it's just going to be some work right now.
5
stars, son.
I like Kamala. Now is that
I
Friday?
liked him too.
Is that Kimchi or is that Friday?
That's Friday.
All right.
It was always Friday until 87 WWF. Suddenly he became Kimchi. But,
and another favorite of mine, Adnan El Casey in there.
No, that's Akbar.
Is it? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Akbar. That's who I meant. Sorry, it's been a long week.
Adnan's the AWA.
Yeah.
I like Akbar here because he's got the gimmick on on his head but if you look below, he's just wearing khakis and a shirt. Like he came from work that day to come. Look at Butch is all Uganda'd out here, man. He's.
I was wondering about that. I couldn't tell if he was wearing the broken nose gimmick or.
No, he's painted up. He's
I don't know. Yeah, I apologize for that. No, I actually I don't like Adnan. I'm a big Akbar fan, but I got the name
well, I
wrong
was
for
about to
some
say
reason.
I was going to call bullshit. I'm like, if you're an Adnan El Casey fan, you're the first one I've met in 46 years of living. But
I will give Adnan one thing. His book is really interesting if you've never read it.
well, he's not a bad guy. I'm just
Oh
saying
yeah,
I've
no,
never heard anybody be like, man, I'm a big Adnan El Casey
oh yeah,
fan.
no,
Like
I
I just
didn't.
love his promos and his work. And
Yeah, no, his book is
I was
very interesting. But
I was
yeah,
a
no,
Billy
I'm not.
White Wolf guy back in the day.
No, I love Akbar from World Class though. He
Oh,
always entertained me. Oh, Big Chop.
referee Randy Pee Wee Anderson there in his early days.
Ah, all right. We've seen Kamala use several chops. What do you think he'll use next, Gene?
Well, now that he's choking, that's two of his four moves in his move set. So we're halfway through them now. Like, oh
We're making fun, but I dearly love Kamala.
no, I always was really fascinated with him as a kid. Like when he'd do that splash off the top rope in WWF, I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I loved the Jake the Snake Saturday Night's Main Event match where Kim Chi unveiled to be Honky Tonk Man.
I just always loved Vince's. That's the honky
It's a
tonk man.
honky tonk man. What I loved about that first though is when he takes the khaki jacket off, and Jesse goes, "Whoa, Kim Chi's a snappy dresser."
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, when he had it was
And
like
then right then, as soon as you see that, you're like, "Wait a minute!" But of course, Vince has to, like you said, just overdo it. That's a honky tonk man. I love the Coliseum video because it ends right there when he says
tremendous.
that.
Yeah, the khaki pants, the mask, and then like the jumpsuit middle is like the best visual of all time.
uh, I was watching some old WWF house shows, as I'm prone to do, and came across one I had never seen where they did the same bit, but Kamala was wrestling Hulk Hogan and Kim Chi unmasked to be Mr. Wonderful.
Huh.
I didn't know that was even a thing that had happened.
No, I didn't know that either.
Yeah. Oh, look at him. Got him right in the armpit there.
That's a
There's
nerve
move
hold,
three.
Gene. That's a deadly, deadly nerve hold.
If Gorilla Monsoon was here, he could tell us exactly what nerve and muscle he's got a hold of right now.
It's the back of the head.
And then Bobby, like, he's squeezing his armpit, Gorilla. What are you talking about?
Oh. Well, since we were talking about books, if you've never read Kamala's book, it's a fantastic read as well.
I always felt a kinship to Kamala because I grew up in Mississippi, and once I learned that Kamala was actually James Harris from about 2 hours away from where I live there in Mississippi, I was blown away. That
It's
those
always
videos
interesting to
were
learn.
not in deepest, darkest Africa. They were actually in Jerry Jarrett's backyard in Hendersonville, Tennessee.
We I don't know if you ever heard of the guy Beast Man that was wrestling for MLW for a while.
Yeah.
I actually worked a bunch of shows with him, and he used to announce himself from deepest, darkest West Virginia, and that always made me laugh.
Oh, shoulder tackle.
Very nice.
It used to blow my mind when Kamala would pull out that leapfrog. Like
Right? And it was always
one of those
hella high,
matches with
too.
Hogan. Yeah, one of those matches with Hogan, he jumped all the way over Hogan. I was like, good night. That's impressive as hell. There's Buddy. Look at
Oh,
that drop
Boudreaux.
kick. Oh.
Buddy comes in, takes one punch, one kick, and fails. I love it.
Oh, Iceman.
Nice.
You rooty poot.
Get in there. I want to see the butt.
Oh,
Is
Hercules.
that
Look at
Hercules?
all these run-ins. That is Hercules Hernandez. Kamala's still laying them chops down, son.
I was really hoping we get to see Butch body slam him, but who's
Terry
that?
Taylor's here. Dr.
Is that
Death's
Dr.
here.
Death? Huh?
Yeah, that's heel Dr. Death with his Iron Mike Sharp armband on there. Oh, Terry Taylor just got walloped. You know,
Oh,
Jim
that's
Ross is losing
unfortunate.
his mind on commentary right now.
Is Kamala up top? Yeah, he is.
Dr. Death! He played on. He was offensive line in Oklahoma.
By God, football!
Football. Touchdown! Oh, there's
It's
Big Bill Watts here. Big Jim Dugan. There's Jim
yeah, it's
Dugan.
Dugan.
He's got his Saturday Night Fever disco clothes on. He's got a
What the
white
hell's?
glove like Michael
Well, yeah, I would say, what's the
Jackson. What
Michael
is
Jackson
going on
glove?
here? Oh,
Who's?
wow.
That was something.
That got out of control in a many different ways. Oh, look at this.
All right, what do we got
Iceman
now?
Parsons and Butch Reed against Kamala and Dr. Death. I will take
Wow.
weird tag teams for 500, Alex.
All right.
What the hell? Dr.
Maybe
Death and
we'll.
Kamala.
That is one of the strangest tag teams I've ever heard of. Like Butch and Iceman. Okay, I gotcha.
Oh, yeah, I can deal with that.
All right, come on, let's see the
Oh,
butt.
God. Kamala played defensive line at Uganda State.
It's Kane.
He was all African champion.
Oh, Lord.
Well, that's a terrible camera shot. Get off of that.
Oh, they're in the blue corner, Gene.
Oh, okay. I was curious who that team was over there. And in the red corner, Dr. Death Steve Williams and Kamala, the Ugandan giant.
I'm glad we know the designated corners.
Yes. I just hope Disco Duggan comes in here again. I never knew Glenn Gilberti was ripping off Hacksaw Duggan in Mid-South circa 1984. That was quite the wild ending we had a minute ago. Kamala's like, I'm not going to.
We're good. Get in there, Doc.
General
Wow,
Skinner are outside the ring.
These are very helpful.
Smokey is dumbing it down for us here. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Dr. Death still rocking his Iron Mike Sharp arm contraption there.
I just need another. I need another pop-up that's like, this is a wrestling match.
Referee, striped shirt.
Yeah.
Fans at ringside.
I always like Joel Gartner's, and your referee is bald. Hey, hip toss. Hip toss.
I'm a roll $5 wrestling. Marty DeRosa goes, and your referee is retarded.
Oh.
Couldn't say that now.
No.
7-8 years ago, it worked. Kamala's like, nah, you get in there.
Is that Hebner refereeing?
That's Ron West, actually, from the Continental days. He does resemble a Hebner.
And I'm watching this on a really small screen, so.
That was one thing that always bugged me about Butch Reed, though, that he wore that same terrible yellow gear for years.
He did.
Straight through the natural days.
Yep. I guess, I mean, Hogan wore the same terrible yellow gear for a long time, too. So.
Well, that's a fair statement if there ever was. I'm surprised, the way things were then, I'm surprised they didn't make him change from yellow just for that very reason.
That's true. I mean, it's more of a gold, I guess. I don't know.
There you can see it used to have words on it that are barely clinging on.
Oh, yeah. His iron-ons fell off. All right. Kamala with half a heart punch.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm not feeling tonight. He is not wanting to be in here.
I kind of miss the days when you could just throw like 9 punches in a row and the crowd was going ape shit, and you didn't have to do like a 360 backflip before you threw one.
Now they throw 9 super kicks in a row instead. They sell them about the same.
Don't get me wrong. Sometimes I enjoy the modern stuff, but the older days of simplicity are missed.
Yeah. I think you could be smarter about how you use the modern stuff. I'll say that. If you
Agreed.
built to those things and made them mean something, I think that they're very effective. But when you see it as much as you do see it, and when things like super kicks, DDTs, and pile drivers just become transitional spots, and every other match has a dive to the floor and all that, it just.
And damn it, somebody
But
needs to bring back the crossface chicken wing.
yes, they do. Well, that was Memphis Monroe's mission. He brought back the Iron Claw and the Heart Punch during his day.
Tremendous.
But he never
Good
got
old
signed.
Ox. Good old Ox Baker.
Yep. That dude scared me as a kid, man. When I look in those magazines as a real small child, like, two guys that legit scared me were Ox Baker and Abdullah the Butcher.
Abby's still kind of scary. After seeing Ox on The Price is Right, it kind of takes away from him being frightening.
That's true. Yeah, if Abby would have ever been on Price is Right, I don't know that he'd ever got as much heat as he did. Once you've seen the Butcher play Klinko, that's just
right. Though those eyebrows are still fucking amazing. All right, Iceman Parsons.
I always liked Iceman Parsons.
I did too. He's a guy I'm surprised never. I mean, WWF probably never would have picked him up, but I'm surprised he never got a Crockett run that amounted.
Yeah.
I mean, he may have been there a time or two, but never amounted to nothing.
I just always wonder if it's one of those things where they didn't bring him in, or if he just was kind of happy staying down there in that general Texas region and just didn't leave.
That may be the case. But I mean, like hella Diaz got a run in Crockett. And I'm not dissing Diaz, but Iceman was certainly more of a personality than him.
Yeah, for sure. But I was discussing that with somebody the other day. There's talking about how it's a shame that Jerry Stubbs never got a run in Crockett or WWF. But by most accounts, from people who knew him, especially like Arn Anderson, his longtime tag team partner, they say that Stubbs just liked living down there in Pensacola and having a territory like Continental that he could drive to his shows and be home every night, and just never really pursued Crockett or WWF.
Makes sense. There's just a lot of these guys like Parsons, and like I would have loved to have seen a John Tatum run somewhere, and a lot of those guys.
Like, I would have much rather have seen Jack Victory tagging with John Tatum as Tatum and Victory, rather than the Russian Assassins with him and the Angel of Death under a dated, even by those days standards, a dated tag team.
Or that whatever the hell it was with Rip Morgan.
Oh God, yeah, they were the Royal Family, the New Zealand Militia, the Mauler. Like, they had like 3 different names by the time it was all said and done. And then, of course, like in 1989, like, here's a tip for everybody watching this: if you ever find yourself in a quiz situation where they're asking questions about WCW in 1989, if it's about somebody in a mask, it's probably Jack Victory. Like, he was a Russian assassin. He was the terrorist, the blackmailer. He played one of the Black Scorpions on house shows at times, as did his partner.
If it's 1987, it's
Jack
Gene
Paltry.
Ligon. If it's 1989, it's Jack Victory.
Exactly. And if it's Memphis, it's Don Bass and Roger Smith. Doesn't matter what year it is, from about 83 up to the 90s.
This would have been
So again, there's somebody watching this right now going, yeah, guys, this is the shit that's supposed to make me think Butch Reed was awesome. Yeah, thanks. We blame Smokey.
I was just about to say, I would like to see a power contest between Doc and Butch, just straight up.
Yeah.
Not a brawl for all, though.
I don't know what we're seeing right now, but
this is a rest hold, Gene.
Well, it's a terrible camera angle. Is all I'm going to say. We could have repositioned it. And once again, some smart ass young person's watching this, going, "Yeah, I bet you'd like to see some flips right now, wouldn't you, fat boy?"
No. Nope, I'm good. I'll take the hammerlock. And don't get me wrong, like I like AEW far more than you do, but well, modern
That ain't
WWF I'm
saying
still
much
out
at
on.
all. But yeah.
Oh, there's Flip and a hip toss, standard Violent J hip toss.
It's like Mike Rotundo appeared out of nowhere all of a sudden.
Hey, they'd be the Varsity Club in a few years.
It's true. Very true.
With Kevin Sullivan as their leader for some unknown reason.
Yeah, I never did figure out how Sullivan figured into the Varsity Club aspect and
Right?
the games master, but he wore a cloak like a freaking yeah. If we're playing, I mean, if it's a freaking early version of Dungeons and Dragons or some shit, he's the game master. But
Yeah,
not
that was.
necessarily for.
I liked the Varsity Club gimmick, but Sullivan never made a lick of sense in it.
No, not at all. But thank God they weren't the Dungeon and Doom in 1987. So
Well, that's true. That sounds like something Kevin would book.
Sullivan, my son. It was like Grand Wizard was like the original John Tolos in that gimmick.
Bring me the Yeti!
Bring the Yeti from my villa in Greece. He's there with Dan Spivey.
Who was also in the Varsity Club. The Dungeon of Doom in '87. That sounds like something Kevin would book.
Hey now.
Ha! All right. Anyway, so
That's
Kamala's
way
back in
inside
bringing the work
baseball
rate.
for everybody. Yes.
Oh.
You can tell this is a house show match because we are really stretching here.
I thought we were going to get the double nerve hold to the shoulder for sure.
Oh, we're building to that. He's got to work both sides of him.
There's the tit claw.
So this has nothing to do with anything we're watching right now, but
most of what we talked about hasn't.
I got access to a hard drive. This guy was offering up lifetime subscription to his Google Drive for like $12. This guy that uploads all this good old school wrestling on YouTube. So I bit, and he has a bunch of books on PDFs.
Nice.
And so today I was perusing the Tony Atlas book. Don't ask me why.
That's legible.
Yeah. The crazy part is when you read a Tony Atlas book, anybody's book that I read, I hear it in their voice. So every bit of this book I'm reading, I'm hearing Tony Atlas read it. It's like if it was an audio book of Tony Atlas reading a book to me right now. And I had to pull out the cellophane. But I don't even remember where I was going with this now. But I only read a couple of chapters, but it was pretty interesting. He talked about his unlikely friendship with Dick Murdoch and how he was not offended by Dick Murdoch's racism because Dick Murdoch was only racist in the fact that he didn't think that different races should procreate and be together, but otherwise, Dick treated him pretty good, and so that was kind of interesting. But I'm trying to. There was something that Iceman did a moment ago that made me think of Tony Atlas, and then I got sidetracked as I was giving the big preamble to how the big preamble to how I was reading his book, as I was stupid enough to mention here on the recording that I was illegally viewing it through a PDF file on a Google Drive. But anyway, nonetheless, I was reading a purchased copy of Tony Atlas's book that I bought from MySpots.com, and there's something interesting in there, and now I don't remember what it was.
I'm pretty sure you bought that from a Borders bookstore because those still exist.
Yeah, that was it.
All right, we're back to this amazing chin lock
for free. All right, I'm sorry, folks. I don't mean to take away from the action here. I'll let Bob describe this chin lock to you here.
All right, he's got it clamped on deep, and yeah, let's talk more about that book.
If you've gotten confused by this point, Kamala and Dr. Death are in the blue corner. Although I
Yeah.
don't see any blue over there, but
All right, we're getting ready for the big baby
whoa,
face. Oh, never mind.
missed the crossbody. Dadgum. Man, I wish I could remember what it was I was going to tell from that book because it was somewhat relevant to something, but it wasn't the Dick Murdoch aspect of it. That just popped in my head for some reason. But I guess when I heard your impression of him, it somehow made me think of Dick Murdoch. Don't ask.
We saw old
Don't
Jimmy
ask how I
Duggan
made.
earlier in his disco gear. I read his book recently. It was decent.
Oh,
He didn't talk about his disco Duggan phase in it, though.
well, that's disappointing. Because I would
It
have
really
really
was.
loved to hear the backstory of just that outfit and that glove he was wearing.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I remember like years ago having an argument with a family member who lives over in Arkansas that watched Mid South, and I wasn't even aware really that Mid South. I mean, I'd seen it in magazines. It was about my only knowledge of it. But Hacksaw had just debuted in WWF as right after WrestleMania 3, and we got into a heated argument at a Christmas gathering about whether his name's Hacksaw Jim Duggan or, as my cousin insisted, it was Dugan. I'm like, no, his name's not Dugan. It's not even spelled that way. And then years later, once again, tape trading comes through, and here I'm listening to Bill Watts calling him Jim Dugan on TV. I'm like, well, that's why Chris thought that.
Yeah, Watts certainly went
Crockett.
in heavy on that Dugan thing.
Mm-hmm. Big Jim Dugan. Oh.
Oh, big double noggin knocker. Well, we at least got to see Butch throw out the dropkick.
Oh,
Oh, and
splash
Kamala with a splash that
back.
Iceman jumped right into.
Now, see, in '84, he knew to roll him over and pin him properly, but in 1993, he would have tried to pin him face down. Winners, Kamala and Dr. Death Steve Williams.
But what corner were they in?
I forget. I wish they'd have told us again. But it's funny how in 1993, Kamala forgot everything he'd ever known about wrestling and the rules, and Slick had to try to instruct him on how to pin people.
And bowling.
Wow. Yeah. One of those great Coliseum video exclusives. Kamala goes bowling. Poor Parsons had to do the job. Who would have guessed?
Well, that was certainly a match that we watched.
So you see what we mean here about how great Butch was, you know? Meanwhile, Bob's over like, so this is a rib, right? James just screwed me. Like, we're not even going to
Right?
put this on YouTube, are we?
All
Speaking
right,
of the
there's the dog.
JYP,
Who dat?
now you know the work rate's fixing to step up because A, junkyard dogs involved, B, it's a dog collar match. So you know
Oh,
you're
great.
about to see some high quality wrestling here. We got two referees. Butch, put the damn collar on, dude. Come on, let's not.
We got at least 6
This
minutes
on
of
them.
stalling to come.
We're going to play 10 minutes of he won't put the collar on.
Oh, there we go.
Screw it down again.
Oh, now the dog's taking his off.
Well, he ain't wearing his, I ain't wearing mine. Yeah, somebody should really start previewing these matches before they just throw them on these things. All right, so the referee's putting it on him. So now Butch is going to have his on, and JYD
Is that
won't
Tito
have his on.
Santana as the referee?
That is his nephew, Chico. That's where Jesse got that from.
Oh.
Chico Santana. A little bit of inside knowledge for you there. All right.
Okay, here we go.
As a kid, I would get so excited at the thought of these gimmick matches, and then as you get older, you realize that most gimmick matches are usually pretty terrible.
Yeah.
The worst being scaffold matches, and we've got a couple of scaffold matches we're going to look at here down the line in a few episodes from the Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Express from this era. I want to
Oh
see if they're any
no.
better than what I want to see if they're any better than what we saw in Jim Crockett Promotions. They'd have to be. They would absolutely have to be.
I hope someone
Or
else
why would
calls that
anybody
one.
have ever done one? Oh, I'm saying them for you, pal.
I need a raise.
You're a big Bobby. Oh, look at that! Right in the kidney. That was low down.
No,
Tito's cousin's like, dude, that wasn't cool.
that was D'Lo Brown and the other guy.
Looking at the real deal now.
What?
Suddenly heard Tony Atlas's voice again. All of a sudden.
He's busy having his face stepped on by a hooker right now.
Oh, there was a whole chapter about that, dude. He is so open about that. It ain't even funny. Like, yeah.
He actually
I
did
didn't
a
read the
show
whole
like
said chapter, but
he did a show like an hour and 20 minutes from my house this week, and I thought about going for like 30 seconds. And then I remembered I didn't care.
you're like, I'm not going to get my wife to step on his face, and there's no way I can sign her picture unless she does. So.
It was like a Thursday night
That's a
show.
nice
It's like
shoes your old lady got on.
I'm not driving like 2 hours and 40 minutes on a Thursday night for Tony Atlas.
That's a poor attitude.
Well,
If he was wearing the Sama Simba gimmick, would that make a difference?
maybe.
It's Tony Atlas in full Saba Simba gear for autographs and pictures.
Oh. Non-surprisingly, this is slow.
This is making that Jim Neidhart match look like Steamboat and Flair.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk to whoever picks the matches for these shows.
Yeah. I guess we're gonna start letting Broadcast Bob pick the matches for all the shows here on Retro Rasslin. He's taking over the match picking for OWF, so he's gonna have to do it for this too, apparently.
And all of those matches are brilliant.
Yes, the work rate is outstanding.
What?
I can't wait to see Mr. Smalls in a dog collar match.
Oh boy.
Do they have a place where you can put requests on their channel?
I hope so.
Because we can start booking our stuff by requesting particular matches from some of these places that we rob matches from.
What do you mean rob matches? This is all
that we spotlight and feature their matches.
Exactly. Yes, folks, if you're watching this and you haven't checked out our OWF Worldwide show, please do. There's lots of high-quality, top-notch technical wrestling, lucha libre, and other styles from all around the world. Well, that's probably true, actually. But
that's my strategy. I'm picking these matches on purpose so OWF will look better by comparison or something.
No, I think the problem right now is that we're showing like matches that are the end of feuds, and it's just
there's no context.
Exactly. But Butch isn't wearing yellow.
That's true. Maybe that's why I thought this was going to be a better match than what it's turned out to be. Well, like I said, this is only part one, so we got to start slow. Part one, not awesome.
Right.
Part two,
then we can taper off from there.
Better.
I mean,
we'll get to the Flair match, say maybe part 5 or so. Yeah, really kick it up from there till we build up to see if we can slip in a Butch Reed versus Outback Jack match or something to really.
That's we were talking. I will say that he did have there's a house show match with Butch and Tito from the WWF run that's actually fairly good, and that's about the only WWF match I can think of that was worth people's time.
Are you telling me Butch Reed versus Coco Beware at WrestleMania 3 wasn't a barn burner?
It was a match that took place at WrestleMania 3, indeed.
I mean, Coco Beware personally stood and told me and Tony Dabbs how him and Butch Reed helped draw that 93,000 people in Pontiac Silverdome right before we went out and worked right before we went and worked a match with him in Olive Branch, Mississippi. Like, okay, so who else from the WrestleMania cards wrestling in a high school gym in Olive Branch, Mississippi, Coco?
And Coco also misspelled the word bird on an autograph that I have, so.
Please tell me it's B-U-R-D.
It's BRID.
Even better.
Yes, he signed it. Do the brid, Coco Beware. So I mean, he's only had that gimmick for 40 years. So
Well, there was a big squabble at the end of this show that I was referring to because the promoter called me and's like, "Man, I got Hall of Famer Coco Beware booked on this show for $100." I'm like, "What?" Like, he said he'd do it for 100. Like, for 100. He's like, "Yep." And then at the end of the night, when he went and handed Coco $100, he's like, "No, I said 400." And yeah, Coco ended up like leaving with their belt, and it was a whole big. Somebody had to go to an ATM and get another $300, and it was a whole thing.
nice.
But I don't know if that was a misunderstanding or if maybe that was a Coco's stunt that he pulls now to get bookings. I know Rock and Roll Express pulled a similar stunt at a show I was at as well. So.
One day we have to do a podcast and just tell stories about the terrible indie shows we've worked.
Yes, it'd be a whole series.
Right? Episode 5, the night Luke Gallows held a promoter off his feet by the throat, and the promoter's mom was like, "Help him!" And I went, "Fuck you!" That is a true story.
There's a time you could have got Gallows on to tell that story, but
exactly.
hard to get a hold of these days.
Well, I'll give him one piece of credit here. At least this isn't one of those stupid pick your opponent up and touch all four corners chain matches.
Oh my God, those are the worst. Any kind of chain match or strap match where you got to drag them around and tag the corners are the absolute worst. And then they always try to come up with some creative, dumbass, screwy finish where, they each tag the turnbuckle all the way to the last one.
I think the only Sting and Vader had one that was just violent enough to be decent, but other than that, I can't think of a good one.
The match was decent, but the finish was stupid as hell.
Well, yeah.
And then they did that screwy one with Sting and Nikita Koloff at Bash 91 where they did that very thing where they both touched all three corners, and then he Stinger splashed him into the fourth, which made Nikita touch it first, so Nikita technically won. But it's like, if they're both on their feet touching the corner, then it shouldn't count anyway, so that's convoluted as hell.
That's like the same, like the stupid crawl out of the cage matches. And
yeah. So this couldn't have been too terribly long before JYD was off to greener pastures at the WWF.
I would say A, based on his physique, and just B, yeah. Because I think Butch turned face.
Oh, is he going to thump him? He going to thump him, sort of.
Yeah, kind of.
Half a thump. Oh, there's Anvil and Trunks, no less.
Is that Anvil or is that Bourne?
I think that's Anvil. I think this is when they were still tagging. God forbid our matches are out of sequence here, but there's Dugan.
There's Duggan.
Yeah, that's Anvil. Look at him. That's definitely the Anvil that old Dugan's whooping up on right now.
What a clothesline.
Get up, Anvil.
Say he's never going to see it coming, Duggan. I was shitting on Anvil earlier for being a terrible person to meet. Duggan's probably the nicest guy you'll ever meet.
Yeah, he really is.
I've met him twice now, and both times he's been fantastic. So,
Yep, I've met him once at a convention, and he was super cool. And I was on a show he was on. He was really, really awesome.
holy hell,
Hacksaw?
Boyd Pierce is dressed normally.
I know.
Holy
What's
hell,
going on there?
Tom Pritchard's hair.
Tommy Pritchard.
That was some hair on Mr. Pritchard. All right, we may actually get a match where Butch can do something. Oh, wait, here comes Dibiase.
Got his black glove on. Referee Carl Fergie.
As we're both quiet so we can hear what he says, even though there's no sound.
He's just telling me, I'll give you $500 if you get down and kiss my feet. And Butch Reed's like, that don't even make no sense. You ain't no $1 million man. He's like, I got money, pal. Don't you worry about it.
I'm not sure that's what's happening, Gene.
He's like, what about this? I'll bring a basketball in here, and if you can dribble it 10 times consecutively, I'll pay you $500 cash.
I'm not
Butch
sure
is
that's
like,
what's happening either.
no. He's like, all right. How do you feel about the city pool? You ever try to go swimming at the city pool? Because I will pay to not let anybody in it but me.
I just like how there's the one flag in the back that just says Arkansas.
Arkansas. I know.
Maybe that's Arkansas state flag. I have no idea, but
I mean, you think they simplified it so that Arkansas would know their flag, but it ain't like anybody there could have read it. So, oh, look at that karate kick by Mr. Tommy Pritchard there.
that was some Stan Lane shit.
It was.
All right, I guess we're not getting a Tom Pritchard match then. We're getting a Dibiase match.
Well, that's maybe not a bad thing. I don't know. This may be the most exciting match yet.
Well, yeah, probably.
Yay, boo, yay, boo, yay, 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 yay. Oh, look at that.
Oh, the big Dibiase bump.
Yep.
Like, and Ted just looks so weird to me without a beard.
Oh, I know. I hate whenever I see old Dibiase matches where he's clean shaven. It's troubling to me. I like my Dibiase with a beard, a mustache, and blonde hair. Blonde-ish, at least. Tom Pritchard's
I don't
leaving.
even care what color his hair is. It just he looks so strange without. Oh, he's trying to call a timeout there. No timeouts in wrestling.
That's the rumor, anyway. Oh, look at that. It's wailing on him. Uh-oh.
Big backslide. Nice. Dibiase's still another guy, man. He just feel like he deserved a lot more than he got.
So, yeah, oh, exactly. I mean, he had a good run, but I hate how it ended for him,
Yeah. And I don't know, the eternal Hogan run. I feel like there were so many guys in WWF that could have had so much more time, and if they just hadn't always had to have Hogan on top. Butch cranking.
Yeah, I mean, that was just their...
Oh, I know.
Yeah. Look at that. Face down like Flair. Yeah, I didn't understand that whole we always got to have a babyface champion to the point that, they just trying to pass it from baby. They pull that whole shenanigans with DiBiase, Andre, and then they immediately strip him, and then it goes to Savage, and then Savage turns heel, so he immediately drops it to Hogan, and Hogan drops it to Warrior without ever turning heel, and it's like, for years there was just never a heel champion for any substantial amount of time.
I mean, I guess if you look at Crockett, it was the same thing, but just with a heel, because the faces never kept the belt.
No,
I mean,
and you
things might have been
never got a
different if
clean
Magnum
finish.
never.
People say that, and I would like to think that, but I don't think things really would have been any different. I think Magnum would have wanted it Starrcade '86 and probably would have dropped it back to Flair. He might have kept it to the Great American Bash the next year, but I doubt it. But Flair would have ended up back with the belt because they just babyface champion just didn't work there. I mean, it never. I mean, they tried it with Sting. They never could make it work with a babyface champion for some reason.
You're not wrong.
But it also sucked. It was so predictable that you always knew, well, Flair's going to keep the belt thanks to the Horsemen or thanks to cheating. It's like there's not going to be a clean finish. You can just about
I just
predict every time what's going to happen.
right. I just feel like if they were ever going to try it, it was going to be with him. So
Yeah. I know Magnum was Dusty's buddy and all that, but at that point, Dusty was still booking it, and it was still the Dusty Road Show. I just don't think Dusty would have put it on him long term and let him be the guy. I think it would have bounced back to Flair pretty quick because Dusty would have had to still get his other title reign in that he got in '86, and probably would have focused more on the superpowers or the whatever powers they were, America's team or whatever it
yeah,
was they were calling themselves. Because the Horsemen don't have any heat. The Horseman group doesn't necessarily work if they don't have all the titles,
that's true.
like they did. So I don't think Sting would have been the star that he ended up getting to be if Magnum wouldn't have had the unfortunate accident.
Also true.
Even though that was 2 years apart, I mean, I think Sting finally stepped up to fill the role that Magnum got knocked out of way back in '86.
Oh yeah, if Magnum had still been there, Sting's reign or Sting would have been a long time coming if he ever got there.
He probably would have ended up in WWF, honestly.
True.
Alongside Warrior, they could have been the world's worst tag team there.
Either that or he could have maybe went in to fill the void after Warrior self-destructed that first time.
True. Wouldn't have been a reason to ever bring him back.
Yeah.
But anyway, DiBiase and Reed having a banger here, as the kids say.
Who listens to the kids?
But no, I try not to, having, but there's Facebook.
They are having a good match. This is more what we were hoping to showcase of Butch.
Yeah. Well, I see we're finally getting around to it towards the end.
No, Ted was definitely one of the top heels in Mid-South. Butch worked both sides, but this must have been after JYD left.
And I'd like to dig into that a little bit eventually down the road and look at some of DiBiase's heel work here and, his Rat Pack with, Matt Bourne and Duggan. And
you're going to have to edit a beard onto him if we're going to do that.
And then, of course, you had later babyface DiBiase tagging with Dr. Death, which was, I don't know, you have all these odd eras of DiBiase that since I became aware of DiBiase as the $1 Million Man and saw everything else after the fact, it's all kind of strange to me.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I guess there were a few matches in Japan after the $1 Million Man run that I've never seen, but
yeah, I mean, he had that tag team with Hansen, as he would slip in and out of Mid-South and UWF to go over to Japan and tag up with Stan Hansen, and then when he left the WWF, he went back and tagged with Hansen a little bit more in '93-ish, and then, of course, retired and came back as a manager of such villains as Tatanka, King Kong Bundy, the Nikolai Volkov, and eventually
I,
went on to WCW to not only be a member of the NWO as Billionaire Ted or Trillionaire Ted or whatever, he eventually broke away from the NWO to manage the Steiner brothers,
oh yeah,
which was just weird to me. Like, so random.
it's about that time in the mid '90s when everything comes a blur. So
Yeah. Well, I'm glad Butch has proved me wrong and has started wearing some red gear as we've moved along here.
Butch has a hell of a drop kick, doesn't he?
He does. It's not quite Brad Armstrong, but it's pretty impressive for a man of his stature, as they would say. Where are you at on the black glove? You like the black glove? You don't like the black glove? What do you think about that?
I always thought it was a pretty good gimmick. I mean, I liked it when Barry Windham did it when he was using the claw and he could load it. It worked
Yeah,
twofold there, but
I was
I miss
just
the
about to
old
say that I preferred black glove Barry Windham over black glove Dibiase, but
stupid little things like the loaded glove and the loaded boot. And I always liked in ECW when Raven would just bang his boot on the mat 2 or 3 times, and that meant for some reason there was like a piece of metal that slid into place or some shit, and he'd kick
yeah, the
people in the
Fuller
head.
Robert Fuller used to do that in Continental. You know, he would kick his boot, the toe of his boot against the mat, and that would quote unquote load the boot, and then kick him, and then he could tap the heel of the boot against the mat, and that would unload the boot. And if the referee checked it at that point, he couldn't feel it.
Right,
And I was like, and even
Grappler
as a
did the
kid,
same
I'm like,
thing, didn't
what is
he?
the mechanics of that? Yeah, the grappler did it before them. Like, what the hell's the mechanics of that? How would that even work? Hey,
Hey,
look
nice.
there, clean win.
Yeah, I never understood the loaded boot, but I always thought it was funny.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those. It's one of those wrestling things. I mean, I love old school wrestling, and I'll sit and argue with any dipshit that wants to say that current wrestling's better, and you know, it wasn't better back then. But for all the people who are like, back when it was real back then, it's like, dude, you had loaded boots. You had like people putting people out with a sleeper hold, and then you act like the only person that can wake them back up is the guy who put the sleeper on. You remember that when like
Oh, yeah.
Brutus would put them out and cut their hair, and then the referee would panic if he wouldn't wake them up before he left the ring. Like no one else would have been able to do it. It's like what?
Oh, yeah. I
It's like
forgot
here
about
we've
the.
got
Is that Dickie Slater in Dark Journey?
Dick Slater and Dark Journey with your ring announcer Bruce Brotherlove Pritchard, referee Tommy Gilbert, father of Hot Stuff Eddie and Doug, and then Butch holding that obnoxiously huge North American title.
Oh, I hate that belt.
I do too. I have to feel like the AEW belt was, I guess, kind of based off that, or is it more based off of something from Japan?
It does kind of look like that belt, doesn't it? I still think it's only
I
like
always
half the
felt,
size, though.
oh yeah, it's still smaller than that, but I always felt like that was what it was inspired by. But I don't know that to
Yeah,
be true. It could be Japanese.
it could be. I don't know, but yeah, no, that belt's terrible. Like
Yeah, I was
that.
very. I mean, not that the UWF heavyweight title was a prize, but it was a vast improvement over that. I mean, big gold belt with a big, huge UWF in red letters.
But no, that belt is hideous.
To me, the best looking belt of the Watts era was actually the television belt.
After it quit being a medal.
Well, yeah, after it quit being a freaking Special Olympics medal.
Dickie Slater.
Maybe we've talked about this before. I don't know, but this bears repeating if I haven't said it on a recording of some such. Whenever somebody tells me that Vince McMahon was a genius in the 80s, my go to argument is really? Vince McMahon looked at Dick Slater in Mid South, one of the best heels they had, and said, you know what? Let's bring him up north to the quote unquote New York territory. Let's make him the rebel Dick Slater, but not as a heel. as a baby face. That'll
Yeah,
go great.
we'll cover him in rebel flags and send him out as a baby face.
As a baby face, because he's not already prone to be a heel already, and then of course slapping this gimmick on him is guaranteed that he'll not get over. So yeah, Vince is a genius. And then here's what we'll do, pal. We're gonna take Butch Reed and we're gonna turn his hair blonde and call him the Natural. I mean, whenever somebody says something about Butch being lazy, I'm like, well, just imagine being Butch Reed and you're sitting there listening to Slick babbling at you, and then you look in the mirror and you see your bleached blonde hair and realize that you're doing a Sweet Daddy Siki gimmick in 1987, and then be motivated to go out there and have a 5-star wrestling
Right?
match.
I guess when they offer you that much money,
You talk about doomed to fail.
right? Well, I always
Yeah.
think about the
But
two
this
stories
same
I think
match
about
could
is
be
one when
taking place a year after where it's happening now.
and it could be the Rebel
Go ahead.
versus the Natural. No, you go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm just saying it'd be the same match, but it would be inverted, where Slater's the babyface as the Rebel, and Butch is the heel as the Natural, and Dark Journey's wherever Dark Journey is at the time.
I always think of the story Cornette tells about when he and the Midnight Express went there, and Vince couldn't tell them a single thing about angles they'd be in, matches they'd have, titles they'd win, but he could tell them about the dolls that they'd make. Like you guys will have figures, and that's all he could tell them about. And then when you're talking about the gimmicks, I think I may have told this story previously, but when they offered Harley Race pretty much the Jimmy Jack Funk gimmick and told him he'd be Hangman Harley Race, and Harley just looked at Vince and went, "Fuck you," and got up and walked out of the meeting. And that's when they came up with the King idea on the spot.
I do want to believe with all my heart that Vince was smart enough to go, all right, he's going to shit on wearing a crown and calling himself the King. But what if we lead with this Hangman Lone Ranger gimmick first, and by comparison, the King will seem great. Like, I want to believe that was the strategy. I know it's not, but I want to think so.
I just would pay. I would pay the price of a pay-per-view just to watch Harley Race's face as it's explained to him. Like where it starts like neutral as they're having this meeting, and he slowly just like one side of his mouth ticks down into a frown, then his eyes starts to twitch.
Now? As he takes a drag off the cigarette. Hangman Harley Race.
Fuck you.
Fuck you. I'll do jobs for Vern before I do that.
Right.
I'll tag with Jake the Milkman Milligan. Milliman, whatever the fuck his name is. I'll say this about the dolls, though. I wouldn't be mad right now if there was a Rebel Dick Slater doll sitting next to my Outback Jack over there on the shelf. I do wish that would have happened.
Oh, I bet you do.
I'm sure
you really have an Outback Jack LJN.
You damn right I do.
Of course you do.
It was a great day when I finally tracked that bad boy down. I just got to get his hat, but can't have it all, I guess.
Of course not.
But I mean, I got to have that to go with my signed picture of Outback Jack that I got my wife for our anniversary.
And you're still married. It's amazing.
Yes. I did do that as a rib. I had a backup, but I did present that first as our anniversary present. Just happened to coincide with when that took place.
I would pay the price of a pay-per-view to see the look on your wife's face.
Bob's out here opening his wallet, shelling out money to see A, Harley Race getting told that he's going to be Hangman Harley, and then B, my old lady finding out that I got a signed Outback Jack picture that says to Gene and Rose for our anniversary.
Happy anniversary, babe.
Well, if you could only pick one or the other, Harley or that, which one are you going with?
I'm assuming it was the same response of, fuck you.
Yeah, pretty damn close. less gravelly voice, but still nearly got headbutted though. Oh, look at that swinging neck breaker. Honky Tonk
very
Man,
nice.
meet your heart out.
That's the honky tonk man.
Well, I don't want to spoil next month's Wrestler of the Month, so we'll quit talking about the Honky Tonk Man.
Oh, sweet.
I wish. Too much of his stuff would get our
Right.
YouTube channel taken down, unfortunately. But Honky Tonk Man's one of the greatest heels of all time, and I will fist fight somebody who says otherwise. I mean, you tell me what's better than an Elvis impersonator out there holding the Intercontinental title for a year
and getting himself DQ'd or counted out in nearly every match while wrestling like a total chicken shit.
Wrestling, pulling the Zabiscos, jumping out of the ring, and then eventually just walks off. He fucking deserts his damn Survivor Series team. That is top-notch heel stuff.
Also, quite possibly the best shoot interview of all time.
Oh, yeah. I would pay to see a debate between Honky Tonk Man and Cornette.
Oh, absolutely.
Even though they would agree on a lot of things, but the few things they didn't. I feel like they could probably get into a heated political debate if I had to guess. God damn.
I don't know that I want to see that, because then I probably wouldn't like one of them afterwards.
He was going for the figure four.
So how do you feel about the opinion that Dick Slater is a poor man's Terry Funk?
I mean, there's some merit to it. I mean, he's definitely inspired by Terry Funk in a lot of ways, but I think there's enough of Dick Slater in there that, you can't call him a straight up ripoff, but you definitely see where he's inspired by Terry Funk. I think that he's a combination of Terry Funk and Dick Murdoch. I think you can just about meld those two people together and you get Dick Slater.
I'd say that's a pretty good assessment.
I mean, although Dick Murdoch wouldn't have been caught dead with a black valet, but that's another story.
I always enjoyed the Murdoch Slater tag team, the Hardliners. It didn't last long.
Yes. No, if we could have got some more of them, I would have been quite happy. I just loved how, like, Jim Ross refers to them like they had been tag team called the Hardliners for 20 years. Like, that's Dick Murdoch and Dick Slater. That's the Hardliners. I'm like, they have never been the Hardliners before tonight. Like, come on, JR. That shoulder tackle.
Butch with quite a press slam there before that.
Oh, man. Too close to the ropes. Oh. That looked painful.
These last couple matches, we've gotten to see a bit more of the Butch we were hoping to showcase.
Yeah, so you got to build to it. You can't...
Well, that wasn't so good.
It's just like any other wrestling show. You don't come out with the main event first. You got to build your momentum. Oh, poor Tommy Gilbert just got. Oh, look at that. Now he's whipped out his knucks of some description. This looks like some athletic tape wrapped up.
I was going to say his heavily wrapped tape circle. Which is my absolute favorite kind of brass knuckles.
Yeah, I used to have an Abdullah stabbing gimmick that was just I cut the brush part of a toothbrush and then wrap tape around the handle. I'd pull it out of my tights and stab people with it.
Love it. My favorite, I forget what match it is. There's a match I've seen before I absolutely love where a guy literally does pulls the gimmick out of his tights, even though there's literally nothing there, and then hides it in a knee pad, hides it in a boot, hides it back in his tights, hides it in his armpit. I think he was wearing a mask. He hides it in the mask, and I'm like, it's literally nothing, and the crowd is so fucking angry.
The old Phantom gimmick.
Yep. Good
What used to
stuff.
kill me is like Texas Lawler would do that shit with the chain, but he'd really have the chain. He'd shove the chain under his armpit, and the next day he'd stick it in his mouth, and be like, "Oh God, dude, you should have swapped the order up on that." Like,
And then I always love it when they'd win with it, and then the ref would raise their arm when it was in their armpit, and it'd fall
oh
out.
yeah,
And that was one of the best
that
stupid
was an awesome
finishes.
finish the first time you saw it, and then you
Yep.
started seeing it from 100 yards away. Like, oh no, not this finish.
Oh, speaking of which, I think we're getting a version of that finish right now.
Oh man.
Maybe.
I think this calls for a little bit of disco Duggan.
At first I was a hoe. I was petrified.
And almost on cue, Dark Journey shows up when you say that.
Oh, you leave poor Dark Journey alone. It's
Is,
bad enough
is
she's
that
with
Duggan
Dick
in the Blue
Slater.
Jeans?
I think so. I don't know who the other guy is. Maybe Tim Horner. I'm not sure.
Well, that's a combo. Dick Slater and Tim Horner.
I'm not sure it's Tim Horner. No, I
Might
might be
as well
wrong.
be. There's Fritz von Erich trying to get up on the ring. He didn't quite make it.
Is it Fritz?
No, that's I think that's Grizzly Smith actually.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
It's definitely Grizzly Smith.
Now I can think of Axel Rotten's story in that Raven shoot interview. He didn't like me because you weren't a 12-year-old girl. Yeah, man, he really fucked me. So you were a 12-year-old girl.
I love Raven. One of my favorite ones is that one where him and Sandman did the shoot together. I know you've seen that one.
Tremendous.
Yes. That became part of my regular vocabulary from that day on.
Yep.
My favorite story in that, though, is Sandman telling the story of Dreamer wearing a flannel shirt and somebody coming up to him, grabbing the bottom of it and just tearing it. And he goes, it tore all the way to the top where he just had the top button. And he walked around looking like fucking Conan all day. Conan. Oh.
Sandman's lips are turning blue, Daddy. Yeah, that's one of the best. If that is Straight Shooting with Raven and Sandman, if you can find a copy of that, whoever's watching this, it's the funniest shit you'll ever see.
Odds are it's probably somewhere on YouTube if you look, because half of them have made their way there. So just, I don't know that to be true, but it's worth checking out if it is.
That is one of the funniest videos you'll ever see.
All right, folks, thank you for joining us for part one of the Retro Rasslin Re-Call with Butch Reed. It started off slow, but it got good towards the end, and we will be back with, like I said, we're going to feature some matches Butch had with Ric Flair. We're going to take a look at a few other matches of his, but we're also coming up soon. We're going to be looking at some more FMW, and like I said, we're going to take a look at a couple of scaffold matches and see if the ones from Mid-South were better than what they did in Jim Crockett, because I feel like they had to be, or else why would you have ever done one again? But that's just me. It won't be that bad. We're not going to talk about them anyway. We've proven it's inconsequential what the hell plays in the background as we ramble on.